The college basketball experience summer coaches tour for the South Carolina State Bulldogs head coach Erik Martin on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8 challenge. Sign up today using that promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCSGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and from picks from Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome, everybody, to the College Basketball Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Happy Friday. The weekend is here, June the 21st. We're moving along with our Summer Coaches Tour, and today on the episode, we got the head coach of the South Carolina State Bulldogs, Erik Martin, coming on, a good friend of mine. We worked together at West Virginia. He worked at K-State. He's a Hugs guy, just like myself, Frank Martin guy. Comes from that tree. He's done an unbelievable job down there in just 2 years at South Carolina State. Took it from 5 wins up to 14 wins last year, and he's got 9 guys coming back next year. So year 3 is going to be a big year in the MEAC. Looking forward to seeing what big things are ahead for the Bulldogs next year. But first, if you're wondering who you are listening to, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac Tonight over at the College Basketball Experience. And like I said, man, we are getting right into it. It's been a great summer coaches tour early on. We've had 5 coaches on before. E-Mart will make our 6th. David Kiefer of the Southeastern Louisiana Lions. Had Rick Cabrera from Northwestern State. Darius Nichols from Radford. Donnie Lynn from Mount St. Mary's. And John Maddox from Morehead State. Go check out all those. They're all on our YouTube page, all on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Got more guests, more coaches lined up next week. The following week, it's going to be a summer tour. But yeah, real quick, before we play that interview with Coach Martin, we got to talk about college football because it's right around the corner, less than 9 weeks ago. So get on over there to SGPN. They got you covered. College Football Experience is doing individual team previews for every college football team, plus SGPN's 5-Minute Fantasy Football is your quick and dirty podcast to get you prepped for all things fantasy. All righty, we are back on the College Basketball Experience. And with further ado, I introduce the head coach of the South Carolina State Bulldogs, Coach Erik Martin. And we continue our summer coaches tour on the College Basketball Experience with the head coach of the South Carolina State Bulldogs, Erik Martin. E-Mart, what's up, man?
Ryan, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Obviously, we go way back. I actually think you're on my T-shirt right here. I got the Fantasy Camp shirt from Hugs' 900th win when we got the win in the bubble, so I had to break that out for this. But just fill everybody in what you've been doing this summer, man.
Yeah, so our kids just got back into town on Sunday, and before that, I had probably a 6-week break from them. And what I've realized as the head coach is the first 2 weeks of vacation, that's good. The next 2 weeks, I start getting antsy. And the last 2 weeks, I'm just counting the days till the guys get on campus. I'm so happy they're back.
Yeah, no, it is funny. And you always were a proponent of get some time away, get with your family. And I think that goes to, let's rewind, you growing up in California, you're a proud Cali guy. I know you played at TCU. And then won JUCO before Cincinnati. But just talk about your different stops in your high school and college career that ultimately led you being to a Cincinnati Bearcat.
Yeah, so I've pretty much seen majority of the world, and I've seen a lot of America. I'm going to try and get this right. So I left California and went to TCU for 2 years,
Hmm.
came back home, went to a JUCO where I played with Corey Blunt. We won the state title. Then I went to Cincinnati for 2 years, left Cincinnati and went to Yakima, Washington for 2 years. The second year we won the CBA championship. After that, I went to Spain, came back from Spain and played in the CBA for another year at Omaha. After that, I figured the NBA is not for me. So then I just went overseas and I played in Philippines, Taipei, Korea, Japan, Argentina, Dominican Republic. I was going wherever they were paying the most that year. So, um, as I said, I've seen a lot of things overseas. And as far as America, the South, which is, I said this to my wife when we got here, the South is really the only part of America I've never lived in.
Yeah.
So now that I've had my time here, I've lived everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love the state of South Carolina. Great place to live. I want to rewind though. So you mentioned it. You started at TCU, you go to a JUCO, and then your last 2 years, you go to Cincinnati, play for Hugs. You guys go to a Final Four, go to an Elite Eight. You're a proud Cincinnati Bearcat. Anybody that knows this guy right here,
Absolutely.
he bleeds the black and red.
No
Just talk
doubt.
about your Cincinnati years because you guys revived that program and really put them on the map to get to where they are today, and that's the Big 12.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as I said, myself and Corey Blunt, we won the state championship. We beat Terry Nelson's team in the state championship, and he was going to Cincinnati with us. So it was myself, Corey, and Terry, and then we had this guard who was a part of our recruiting class. He was all right. His name was Nick Van Exel. So Corey was the National Player of the Year. Nick Van Exel is Nick Van Exel. And Terry and I were good players also, but the best player on that Final Four team was Herb Jones, who God rest his soul. He passed on a couple years ago, but Herb was the perfect type of leader for that team. Didn't say a whole lot. His effort and just how he went about his everyday work ethic was was it's legendary on the UC campus. Back then, when there wasn't any limitation on time, you can practice the guys as many. We'd practice for 3 to 4 hours every night, not some nights, every night. Herb Jones would go back and get his shots up, and to show him how much respect he'd have, the dance team and cheerleaders, they would move whatever Herb was on, they'd go to the other end, and not once did they ever say, "Hey, can you move?" So I think that's a sign of respect. And knowing Herb, I'm like, Herb, you're just trying to get close to the cheerleader. That's pretty smart. I need to come work out with
No doubt, no doubt. One thing I always got a kick out of, Ivar, when we worked together was you telling those guys, you all think that you're going to be pros and think it's easy, but you went overseas, like you said, for a decade of your life before you got into coaching. What were just some of the life lessons, just how to handle yourself in a different country where you don't always speak the language and know how they act?
Well, having lived in a lot of different places in America, when I went overseas, mostly I would just try and man, it's hard to define it because some places I went, I was on my own, but I had a car. When I was in
Yeah.
those Asian countries, I didn't have a car, but I had an interpreter. So it was really when I got there, I had to determine, okay, did I have means of going other places and seeing things, or was I kind of locked in? But I can say this: everywhere I went, I had really good teammates, and they took me under their wing. And you spend enough time around a person, they become family. So when you're in another country, this is pre 9/11. I just thought of it as, hey, they're paying me to play basketball, but I also get to sightsee for 9 or 10 months. So I enjoyed that. And then obviously after 9/11, overseas, the security, no matter where I went, you could see it. I was in Korea and Japan after 9/11. You saw Korean military and American military on the street walking around. So I'm kind of a laid back guy. You know this about me, Ryan. It
Mhm.
doesn't take much to make me happy. I don't drink anymore. I'm coming up on a
Good for
year of
you.
not drinking. So, but when I was playing basketball, I stayed drinking. So, if you found me a bar where there was some attractive women, that was my spot, no matter what
Yeah.
country I went to. So that's where I set up shop. And as I said, I'm not difficult to please. I'm really into basketball and just relaxing in my free time.
That's awesome. And yeah, I'm going to steal a quote from you here on my next question. The ball's going to stop bouncing for everybody one day. Nobody's going to play till they're 80, 90 years old. You have a 10-year overseas career, then you get into coaching. You get into the high school ranks, and you go to Cincinnati State. Then you go to Kansas State for a year, and then West Virginia. What about those first couple stops before you got to the high major level? Was the biggest, like, taken back, wow, I didn't realize all this went into the coaching profession?
Yeah, when I finished playing, I took a year off. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to stay around basketball because I don't love basketball. I'm in love with basketball. It's done so much for me in my life. So I took a year off, figured out what I wanted to do. I had a friend who knew I wanted to, stay close to basketball. He said, "Hey, you want to coach a team?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I got a JV team at this school you can coach." I said, "I'm all in." He said, "The only thing is you have to be a teacher." I said, "I'm all out. I hate kids. I don't want to." And my mom, who taught for 40 years, she's the one who really talked me into, Eric, you'd be a great teacher. You're transparent. You're a good communicator with the kid. And I can say this now. Those 3 years that I taught at Jacobs High School in Cincinnati, I couldn't have picked a better way to prepare me for going in and dealing with older kids as I moved on from Cincinnati to Kansas State. So um, I think some things that have been lifelong values of myself is I'm going to be a 100% honest with kids I'm coaching, whether I'm the head coach or assistant coach. Uh, I'm going to hold them accountable, and how can I say this in a way that I'm going to push these guys to their limit, and when I know they're at their limit, I'm going to push them past their limit, because I truly believe the only way you can grow sometimes is by failure or by struggling. I don't
Yep.
think anyone, Jordan, LeBron, Krzyzewski, John Wooden, even though they have championships, you have to fail in order to learn how to deal with failure and move on and become the person you're supposed to be or the best version of yourself. So those early years at Jacobs when I was teaching, it wasn't a lot of money. I made $700 every 2 weeks. I sit back now and try and figure out how did I pay rent and pay for my car. I had no
Yeah.
idea, but I also had to hustle a little bit. I worked a lot of summer camps. Anytime I could do something around Cincinnati to make some ends meet, I did. That was the other part about me uh, being grateful for getting the opportunity to work with Hugs. Man, I went from making nothing to making I think maybe like $70,000 or $80,000 a year, which was like a million when I first
Yeah.
started working with Hugs. So uh, I'm one of those people where I can say I paid my dues. I did it the right way. I started from the bottom and worked my way up, and I'm blessed to now be the head coach at South Carolina State University. It's been a hell of a journey.
Yes, it has been a great journey, and you have paid your dues. From you mentioned it, you go from a high school teacher to working at K State for your former coach at who you played for at Cincinnati Hugs. You guys had a heck of a staff there. Fun year with Delonte Hill, Frank Martin, Brad Underwood, Josh Eiler. Just talk about how fun a year that was at K State before headed to Morgantown.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. Before coming to K State, I was at Cincinnati State, and we had just gone to the Nationals in Danville, and I think we finished fifth. Andre Tate was the head coach. He was about to go to Cincinnati. I personally thought, oh, I'm going to get the Cincinnati State job. Finally, I get to be a head coach. But Gary, God, I can't remember his name. He was the AD and also the women's coach. He decided that he should be the head coach at Cincinnati State. So, as the AD, you always get the last call. So I'm
Yep.
without a job now. So I get a call from Bob Huggins one day, and he said, "Hey, I want you to come work for me." And I'm thinking, who is this? And he said, "It's Hugs." And I'm thinking, okay, Hugs and I had our a few issues when I was playing. I don't think it was anything meteoric, something to where it was more than just one thing I loved about Hugs. You can say what you wanted to say to Hugs, and as long as you were playing hard, he didn't as some coaches would do, he didn't hold it against you or he just let it go. So
Yep.
I get to K State and I got Frank, Brad, Delonte, Josh, and we also had Andy Ashley.
Andy
I call
Ashley. Yep.
it I call it a dream team of coaches. And when I got in there, my goal was keep your mouth shut and ask questions. And Frank was great. Delonte was great. Brad was great. And when you go from Jacobs High School in Cincinnati State to a Power 5 conference school, really, I'm just trying to let me stay out of the way and kind of figure things out. But I think the thing that helped me out was at the end of the year when Hugs decided to go to West Virginia, only Hugs and I left the staff. So now it's me and Hugs in West Virginia, and Hugs says, you're in charge of the office. I got to go on the road and take care of some things and do some fundraising. So for a while, I had a chance to kind of run West Virginia's office. Unfortunately, I had to get rid of some of the players that were there that he was like, he can't play for us, get rid of them. And I was like, how you want me to do that? He said, figure it out. So I ended up having to do that. I had to go through workouts. It was eye opener. It really was an eye opener. But let's talk about some of the people we had on that team: Joe Alexander, Darius Nichols, head coach of Radford; Joe Mazzulla, head coach of the Celtics;
NBA
Alex
champion.
Ruoff, NBA champion; Alex Ruoff, who was an assistant coach. There's someone else on that team who ended up being a coach. Wellington Smith did AAU for a while, so we really walked into a veteran team. And I think we said this when I got hired. John Belon did a great job with those guys. Wow, he did a great job with those guys. You have to give him credit. So we inherited a veteran team, and we were able to go to the Sweet 16 and beat Duke in Washington, D.C. that year. So I've been fortunate enough to been around some really good coaches. And I want to believe that I've learned some things, but I think all of them have said, "Hey, Eric, take some things from coaches, but just be yourself. Your style is going to be your style. Obviously, you're going to take some of Hug's stuff because you've been with him your whole career. But I've added a few things and I've tweaked a few things that Hugs does."
Yeah, and you mentioned it. So you walk into West Virginia, you go right, success right off the bat. Got a good group. You mentioned the guys. Go to the Final Four. You're in the third year. Then sustained success. Press Virginia comes along. That's a hell of a 4-year run. 3 Sweet 16, 4 years. You're there 15 years, which doesn't really happen much in the coaching industry. And on top of it, pretty much had the same staff intact: Larry Harrison, Ronnie Everhart, Billy Hahn, Josh Eiler. Like, that doesn't really happen working for Hugs. Just talk about how special those 15 years were. And just, I mean, you raised your family there. It's Morgantown's always going to be special to you. Just talk about your experience and your love for that place, West Virginia University.
Yeah, and you said it, Ryan. Once again, we had another Hall of Fame staff. Larry Harrison and Billy Hahn were there, or were on the first staff with me. But now you're talking about two legends. Mm-hmm. And I get it if you're just a regular fan, you don't know those names, but I guarantee you, you go to an AAU event and sit down next to a coach and say, "Hey, have you ever met Larry Harrison or Billy Hahn?" I can guarantee you, you're not going to go through anyone who doesn't know one or both of those guys. So once again, I'm the youngest guy on the staff. I'm learning from those guys, but I'm in a different part of the country. So now I'm recruiting New York, DC, Virginia. So my career allowed me to really just be able to make contacts in every part of America. But the best part about West Virginia was, and you know this, Ryan, having worked there, when you're a Mountaineer, you're family. And that means your family, not just to the university. It's alumni. It's anybody. Hey, coach, you need anything? Hey, coach, what can I do to help the program? Hey, coach, any of your kids need summer jobs? It was probably, if I'm breaking my life up into 15 years spaces, that was the best 15 years of my life. It really was. Yeah. And as you said, it is still home. A lot of my friends are there. I met my wife in Cincinnati, but I brought her to West Virginia the year we made it to the Final Four. So I thank the Lord for allowing me to work with Coach Huggins. And I always get questions from people like, "Coach, you don't think you stayed there too long?" And I always say, "Yeah, I had opportunities to move, but you know what? I like winning."
Yeah.
And you can't put a price on winning. Yeah, I could have gone and worked for someone else, but how do I know that guy was going to be as passionate about winning as Bob Huggins was? So I don't regret anything I did. And when I got here, were there some things I didn't know? Yeah, but that was the beauty of that first year at South Carolina State. It was an absolute struggle. That was the hardest year of my life. I don't handle losing well. I only won 5 games. And as I said, I was in a part of the country where I didn't know anything. So that year, I needed that year as the head coach. To be honest, I needed to be humbled too. And I got humbled that year. So now things are better. I'm familiar with the city. I'm familiar with the state. I got recruiting ties. My staff is better. And I got 90% of my returnable players back this year. And I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in America that brought back 90% of their return. I'm pretty sure that I'm the only person in America that did that. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure too, because that's unheard of. I mean, I get people that be like, yeah, I got 10 new guys. I go, that's actually probably about the median. That's not really,
Yeah.
that's not even the outlier anymore. But Emar, you mentioned it, that perfect transition. So you're with Hugs for 15 years, hell of a run. Go to South Carolina State, and I think people forget you got the job late in the summer too. And so I mean, you're trying to fill your roster, be able to fill a team for your first year. What were I know we had conversations privately. What would you do if you were the head coach? What was the biggest transition from being an assistant to being you're in charge, this is your operation in that first year?
I think the biggest change was, one, as the head coach, you're responsible for everything, but you don't do everything. You have to delegate. And the other thing is, the amount of administrative things you need to know. Like, it's needless to say, South Carolina State does not have the resources that West Virginia does. I don't have a secretary. I'm my own secretary. And as you know, we used to have two terrific secretaries, Debbie and Amy.
Yep.
And when I needed something, I would just scream, Debbie, Amy, and they'd come in and say, what do you need, coach? I don't know how to copy and paste. Can you do that for me? And they would.
Not to mention about 16 managers that could help you too at the drop of it. Yeah.
But when I got here, it was just me. I hadn't hired a staff. So I think the first 2 weeks, and I'm not exaggerating, I was in there at 6 because I couldn't sleep. Because as the head coach, when you wake up, there's always something going through your mind about what you got to do. So I learned, put a piece of paper next to the bed. Larry Harrison told me that. Wake up, write it down, and then you'll be able to go back to sleep. It took me about 6 months to learn that. So I'm up at 6 a.m. I'm in there. I'm trying to schedule. I'm trying to find staff. I'm trying to find players. I still got to find a place to live for the girls. I got to get the girls here. I got to sell my house in West Virginia. So I can honestly say the first month of me being here was the most overwhelmed I've ever been in anything I've ever done. Yeah, I had to wear a lot of hats, and I was happy about that. I knew it would be a struggle because I've talked to people. I talked to the previous coach that worked here, and he said, this is going to be something. It's going to be a hard job for you. But he said, but if you do turn it around, it'll be more fulfilling than if you got the Cincinnati job, because nobody expects South Carolina State to win. You turn that around, it'll be fulfilling. And he's right. My first year, I won 5 games. This year, I won 14. And man, being a head coach, it's more involved in the job than the regular fan would realize. Obviously, Ryan, you've been on the staff before, so you know what being a head coach entails. But the regular fan, you have no idea how much stuff a head coach has to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, your job's about 5% coaching basketball, 95% BS and just keeping other people happy. But Emar, you mentioned it, 5 wins your first year, tough year. But it's your first full off season. You guys jumped to 14 wins. Now into your next off season, people know exactly what you want. It's kind of ironic because it took Hugs his 3rd year to get things really going at Cincinnati. You're headed into your 3rd year. Just talk about your staff and how the benefits of having a staff that's been with you now a couple years, know what to expect and the culture, because you're running it kind of like an old school program of building it the right way year after year, rather than just bringing in a bunch of guys and seeing if you can throw it at the wall and stick for a year and then doing it again the next year. So just talk about the continuity and culture of your program.
Yeah, the first year I came in, you said it, I was hired late. So I was late getting to recruits, coaches. So I hired 3 coaches, 2 from the state of South Carolina. One was a junior college coach. after the season ended. Two of the coaches had better opportunities, so they moved on. I kept Bernie Kosum, and then I hired Coach Raheem Waller. And the reason that was so important was because, one, the previous coach at South Carolina State was only here for 1 year. He left and went to Alabama State. Coach Waller went with him. Coach Waller played here. He went to 2 NCAA tournaments and was a part of 2 of their better teams. So now I hire someone who's familiar with the state, familiar with how the school works. And when I say everybody on this campus knows Coach Waller, everybody knows him. Faculty, janitors, you name them, they all know him. So now I have someone on my staff who kind of knows how everything works. And it just made all the administrative work for me that much easier, because I could just say, Coach, you're going to handle this. And it just allowed me to just concentrate on basketball. And I think I was a better coach then. Also think after that first year, I realized I needed to become a better communicator with my players. And last year I had multiple meetings when I would call them to my office and I'd say, hey, let's talk. Let's not talk about basketball. What else is going on in your life? Your family doing all right? You got a girlfriend? Your relationship going well? And that's one thing that allowed me to get a little bit closer to my team. So I'd love to say I got it all figured out, but I've heard Bob Huggins say this. Erik, if you ever are in coaching and you think you have it figured out, retire, because there is no having it all figured out. I've been in this 40 years and I'm still figuring it out. So I'm enjoying my time. Obviously, as I said before, I enjoy winning more than losing, but I just enjoy my team. And as we said earlier, I got 9 of my 13 scholarship guys coming back. So they know what I want. They know how I want practice run. They know how we're going to travel. They unlike last year when I brought in 9, I don't have to start from the beginning.
Yep.
We can move forward a little bit, and we're supposed to be taking a trip to Puerto Rico at the end of the summer. I think this is the perfect team to do that with. This is the year we make a run in the MEAC.
Yes, the foreign tour trips is you can't put a value on how important that is for the team, just team cohesion. Teams that have a lot of success, you look back and they went on a foreign tour. So they're definitely beneficial to you. But Emart, you've taken a lot of your time. I appreciate it. One last question for all the South Carolina State Bulldog fans watching. As we head into year number 3, you look to get over the hump in the MEAC. What's your message to the fan base about your team heading into year number 3?
Yeah, we got this thing going in the right direction now. And I want you fans to come out and support us. I think the product on the court is going to be just, we're going to play a style of basketball where I want to play more up-tempo on offense. Last year we pressed. We're going to press a lot more this year because I got these returning guys coming back. But, hey, come out and support the Bulldogs. Beautiful SHN gymnasium. I'm looking forward to it. I couldn't be more excited, Ryan, really. I couldn't be more. I know that there might not ever be another moment in my coaching career when I'm bringing back 9 players because of the state of college athletics. So I'm not saying it's NCAA or a bust, but we ought to have a great year, and we're preparing to have a great year.
Absolutely. I can tell it in your voice. Well, Coach Erik Martin, thank you for stopping by the College Basketball Experience. Best of luck this season in the MEAC. And, of course, Emart, look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, Ryan, thanks for having me. You know, you and I have spent enough time together, man. All you got to do is shoot me a text, and I'll be on your show. No questions asked, brother.
Appreciate it, Emart. Thanks, man.
All right. Love you, man.
See you, man. Love you too.
All right, brother.
Coach Erik Martin, head coach of the South Carolina State Bulldogs, and I think you guys can tell he is excited about next year. Big year. They went, like I said, 5 wins to 14 wins. But he had the first year he got hired late. It wasn't a true offseason. Kind of like Joe Mazzulla in a way, where Joe Mazzulla got the job weeks before the NBA season. He finally gets a full off season, and we saw he did wonders at the Celtics this year. Emart gets a full off season, gets a staff, his team knows what to expect from him. They jump from 5 to 14 wins. They jump from 8th to 2nd in the MEAC. And number 3, year number 3, they're going to try and get over the hump and win the MEAC and get to the big dance. So Real quick before we get out of here, we got to pay the bills because we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Don't miss your chance to try it before the game. And they got picks everywhere, higher, lower, and they got college baseball. They're gonna have college football and the NFL when we get to the fall. So get on over there, and you got to use the promo code right above me, TCESGPN, to get those special promos and claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy in the promo code right above me, TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Like I said, with Underdog, they're going to have plenty of props available. And you know what's great about Rhythm? They break it down from a scientific aspect where they can point out trends and give you an edge that you won't be able to see unless you got this Rhythm app. So get on over there with their predictive models with the scientists. Claim your 7-day free trial by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All righty, back on the college basketball experience. Want to shout out E-Mart once again. We go way back. I've worked with E-Mart 7 or 8 years, however long I was at West Virginia. I can't keep track anymore, but really excited for him and his program in year number 3, and we're going to be there every step of the way to preview, just like all the other guests that we've had on. Like I said, we got more guests coming on next week. We'll tweet them out, just like we've done for the first 6. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Follow me at Moneyline_Mac as well for my content where I'll let you know when we get these guys on. And we got some draft coverage breakdown. So got a bunch of stuff working here over at the College Experience. Go check out the College Football Experience, all 134 teams with Colby. No, Phoenix got you covered on the College Baseball Experience with the Road to Omaha. We're down to 2 teams, Tennessee and Texas A&M. And that's all I got, guys. It's have a great weekend, and it's season will be here before we know it, man. Kids are on campus. Teams are starting to practice. Portal's finally winding down. We're starting to own some teams. Who's going where? What teams are bringing what back? And it's a good time. It'll be here before we know it, November 4th. So can't wait. This is another edition of Mac Tonight, signing off on the College Basketball Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here. Have a good weekend.